he has spoken on the topics faith, family and freedom in Cuba, Belgium, Brazil, Congo, UK and all over the USA to crowds from 14 to 40,000. International leadership speaker, trainer and coach. Author of Learn to Raw Leadership, Attitude Hack, Live a More Excellent Life, 5 Battle Strategies of a Victorious Warrior. 2021 President's Lifetime Achievement Award recipient. Founding partner of the John Maxwell team. Toastmaster International Speech Competition semi-finalist. Founder of Tell It Like It Is TV, ThatGuyRocks.com and ThatGuySpeaks.com. Creator of Story Power TV, Transforming Grace TV, and Leading Leaders Podcast. Producer of 4 TV programs and podcasts for Liftable TV and World Trumpet Television as well as multiple social media channels. Please help me welcome J Loren Norris.
You know, it really is amazing how easily you can manipulate the world of reality by leaving out really small details. But have you ever tried to make a cake and you forget that 1 tablespoon of olive oil or that 1 cup of salt or scoop of salt, teaspoon of salt? It's amazing how all of the rest of the ingredients don't seem to come together the way they're supposed to when that one little thing is left out. It's amazing. But it's also amazing whether you're talking about an industry or politics or law or relationships, how you can leave out that one tiny detail and the result is a completely different outcome than you would have expected. Let me tell you something. Leaving out tiny details to hide somebody's feelings or to keep from causing a bigger problem or to keeping the problem from going viral, it does not stop the problem. It doesn't solve the problem. And it is not the role of good leaders to hide the details. That's usually the role of a manipulator. That's what I want to talk about in this episode of Leading Leaders. Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast, and if you haven't noticed, we have completely reset. I did get past my buzzy buzz problem with that one little wire that didn't work, but I still have some other little things to work out. I have multiple camera angles in my studio again, which I kind of like, but not everybody's a fan of it. That's okay. I don't care, because I like it. I like being able to control the buttons a whole lot easier from right where I'm standing as well. It reminds me, though, that sometimes there are details that, well, they're easy to overlook. Like the placement of my laptop. The laptop is what allows me to control the switcher and to see what's going on. It's kind of my feedback preview, so I have an idea whether what's actually going on is what's supposed to be going on or not. And in this shot, you don't even know it's there. I can hide it very easily. You also can't see my iPad or anything on the control table. If you could see back here, you would see there's a whole lot of stuff going on, kind of like in a recipe. I love watching MasterChef and some of the things that they do on that show because they reveal some of the details in the chemistry. If I switch to this camera angle, on the other hand, you can see the top of my laptop. You can tell that there's a little bit going on. If I zoomed out a little bit, you could see the entire control booth and the other cameras and even some of the lights in the shot. But it's the job of the cameraman to make sure that when that shot is compiled, the composite of the shot doesn't include all that stuff, because that's not what the shot is about. The shot is about me. It's about me talking. And it really should be about that shot. When I switch back here, the focus is just here. Manipulators are really good in relationships, in careers, in educations, at only focusing on specifically what they want you to see, to feel, to think. I watched a really cool clip yesterday on the contrast between Japanese anime and American animations. Now you would think they're pretty much the same thing, right? They're drawings that become motion pictures or moving pictures. And one of the drastic differences between the two is that the changes of images in American animation is about every 1 or 2 frames, there's a completely different image. In Japanese anime, it's every 3 to 5 frames. Now, obviously that's going to fluctuate depending on the nature of the film, but because in the Japanese anime it's 3 to 5 frames, what happens is your mind and your eye stays longer on the image that's presented to you. It's less focused on the motion and the animated action and more focused on the detail that's in the image. Now, if you were to continue to stare at this image for a long period of time, you could begin to pick out some details in the image behind me. If you were to stare at this image for a long period of time, you'd begin to see some of the books in the shelf behind me. It used to be that the primary backdrop of my video was my bookshelf. And I had people send me messages and say, I can't believe you read that book, or I didn't know you also read that book. And on the shelf behind me was a pretty good range of diversity of the books that I've read. It's easy to get lost in the details. It's also easy, if you're not careful, to focus on the details when really they don't matter as much. What you assume matters. I had a guest in not too long ago who noticed my bookshelf, and between the interviews, they were perusing the bookshelves and noticed some of the things that were up there. And after the interview was over, they said, as soon as I saw XYZ book on your shelf, I knew we were going to have a great interview. And I thought to myself, if you'd looked one shelf up, you might have seen some stuff that you might have thought was absolutely contrary to the one that made you feel comfortable, which is ironic to me because there's some assumptions made about the details when there's not enough information about those details to truly make a decision. See, one of the games that manipulators play, and this is why I say that good leaders don't do this, but manipulators do, is that they expose you to just enough detail, just the right ingredients in the recipe, just the one chemical compound that suits their narrative, their story, the outcome that they want you to have. You know, if I really wanted you to believe this was an enormous studio, I would move myself further away from the wall and closer to the camera so that when you saw the camera angle, you would see a whole lot of stuff behind me and it would look like an enormous television studio. Well, it's not that big, but it's not that small either. It's, I don't know, probably 200, 300 square feet. It's not enormous. It's not a warehouse. It's not Daystar or NBC Studios or even the studios at Las Colinas. It's nothing like that. But I don't want to lead you to believe that it's more than it is. And I don't want you to be concerned with the details in the background of the image. I'm not trying to create an illusion that's not true. That's the work of a manipulator, not the work of a leader. Now, I'm spending a little more time in the detail of what I know to be very practical, because you've all seen it. Remember the old Andy Griffith thing? They would hold their fingers up and kind of look and say, what's in the scene that we're creating? Well, you've done the same thing with your cell phone. Probably when you're taking a selfie and you hold it up and you don't want it down here because that shows all your extra chins. You want it way up here so that all that neck is stretched out and the shadow is coming down from your head. And if you ever watch a guy take a picture of a woman for a full length, he tries to put it at his belly button so that it's a direct on shot so that he gets the right scope of the shot, meaning everything appears to be in perspective. And she'll almost always correct him and go, no, it's got to be above the eyebrows because it makes my neck look thinner. Well, it's a distorted image. It's a controlled image. It's a manipulated image. And never mind the filters that you can put on a selfie or a TikTok show or video or however many variations of that there are that, well, they hide the details. They manipulate the details. They create, well, a false reality. And it's amazing how many people will do that in relationships. Ask yourself if you're regularly on social media, which is where I'm guessing you're seeing this, whether it's Facebook or YouTube or LinkedIn or Gab TV or wherever it is that you're watching this podcast. Maybe you're hearing it on Spotify. Ask yourself if you've watched or heard the videos, the relationships where somebody will say something like, well, I guess it's all over. I'm going through a divorce because my person doesn't love me anymore. And then the person in the background goes, what are you talking about? Well, I asked for XYZ and you said not in a million years. And you realize that it's a play on words. It's a funny. It's designed to get a rise out of you. The question was probably designed to get a rise out of their spouse in the first place. But the twist, the plot twist, what makes it funny is the fact that they've interpreted, for the sake of the joke, we hope, they've interpreted the response that was not exactly the response they were hoping for to mean I don't love you anymore, or get out of my life, or move on. And it's really a great form of comedy when you can see just what that contrast is, but you have to see the whole thing. Because some of those memes, they start off very solemn and they seem very serious. And those little clips, you think, wow, I can't believe this couple's going through this. And then you realize, oh, it's a joke. But you also realize how easy our words are twisted. And when someone has that intent, they can easily twist your words as well. They can twist the meaning. They can twist the impression, sometimes just by changing the inflection. One of the exercises I do with the people that I train in communication skills is to ask them to read a statement. I didn't say she took the money. 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 You see how just where you put the inflection, where you put the emphasis, where you put the accent in that statement completely changes the meaning behind it and the narrative of it? See, manipulators are really good at changing the expression of the details. Which ones do we leave out? Which ones do we highlight? What do we completely push to the background so that nobody even realizes it's there? And what do we pull to the forefront so that everybody has to pay great attention to it? What do we magnify? What do we amplify? What do we put in the headline? How many times have you read the headline of an article only to realize that as you read the article, the most salacious thing in the article, the only thing that really got your attention, in fact, by the time you're done with the article, you realize there was nothing in that article that even reflected what the headline led you to believe the article might be about. That's a scary truth. But it is that not good leading, but solid manipulation. That's kind of what I'm concerned about. There are those out there who would say they were leaders, but when you watch the way they interact with people, when you watch the way they treat people, when you watch the way they behave around those that they lead, they tend to leave out details. Details that, well, later they sabotage you. Later you realize, if I'd known that fact, I would have acted completely differently. If I'd known that fact, I would have responded differently. I would have taken more time to gather the information before I responded. It's like when you walk into the room and you're having a hearty conversation with someone, and you're having that conversation about another someone, and the person you're having that conversation with is just nodding along and not responding at all to let you know that the person you're talking about is standing over your shoulder. That's a horrifying moment, especially if that minor detail that they've left out could later come back to bite you. If what you're saying is in a moment of passion or rage, and you thought you could trust the person you were saying it to not to repeat it, and you just needed to vent and get it off your chest, but the last thing you would want is for the other person to hear it because it might crush them or hurt their feelings or make them mad or make them fire you. And then to realize that one little detail was left out, that, oh, by the way, they're hearing everything you're saying. I don't have to repeat it to them because they can hear you now. Or, oh, sorry, I failed to tell you they were on speakerphone and they've been able to hear everything you've said. See, those are the little details that are not representative of good leadership. They're representative of manipulation. Good leaders don't do that. Manipulators do that. If you found yourself in a work environment, whether it's you doing it or you as the victim of it, where the details have been hidden, have been left out, have been manipulated, have been disguised, remember that it's just that one pinch of salt that makes the difference between how fast your pasta boils and whether or not it sticks together. Just a little teaspoon of olive oil in that pot as it's boiling, and your pasta is not going to stick together in a big giant clump like it would have if you just boiled it in straight water. It's amazing how those little tiny details make all the difference in the world. And you'll be amazed, if you're a good leader, how just managing yourself and not the details, not hiding the truth or exposing things only the way that they support your narrative or your win and destroy other people around you. That if you divulge what's necessary at the proper time with good conscience, you're not a manipulator, but you're a good leader. Now, also remember that sometimes you're going to have to reveal details that don't suit you well. If you're going to operate in integrity, you're going to have to reveal some details that, well, they may cost you. Telling the truth will often cost you, especially if you're new to it. If you haven't been real honest all along, if you've hidden details and manipulated ideas and narratives and relationships and conversations up until now, the minute you change that, it's going to cost you. Yeah, you're going to have some relationships to fix, some bridges to mend, some things to unsay that sometimes are really hard to unsay. But I'm going to tell you now, if you continue down the path of hiding the details, manipulating the relationships, controlling the narrative in other people's lives, there's going to be a greater price to pay for that. You may think right now, yeah, it's nothing. I'll never get caught. There will never be a price to pay. I don't care where you are in the political spectrum or where you are in the legal spectrum or where you are as an elitist or a pauper in life. There will always be a price to pay. It may not be this week, may not be this month, but eventually there'll be a price to pay. The more of the details that you hide and manipulate now, the more cannon fodder there will be against you when that time comes. It's best that rather than playing your cards close to your chest and hiding all your secrets, hoping nobody ever finds out, that you live a life of integrity, authenticity, and transparency. If people don't like me because they know too much about me, I understand that. But if they like me only because they don't know enough about me, that makes me a manipulator and not a good leader. That's my challenge for you today. As a leader, are you transparent? Are you authentic? Are you operating in integrity? Do you deal with yourself the same level of exposure that you deal with everybody else? Or do you hide things about you and expose things about others in order to gain ground and win your own way? I challenge you to really take some time and ask those questions yourself. Get out your journal, write down the answers so you can look back on this 6 months from now, a year from now, and say, this was the day that I decided I'm going to live in integrity and authenticity. I'm going to expose the details that are relevant. Maybe change the ones that are true but not so good. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.
Loren is a master teacher on storytelling, and I learned so much. I'm really going to have to sit down and go back through everything, and I think I might have to have some more coffees with Loren, but it was totally worth my time, and I really highly recommend it if you're looking to grow your ministry, grow your business, grow your career. Loren will serve you well.